Hey guys, it's Lauren here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are back to talk about anime once again because I am on this train and we're just gonna continue to ride it until probably the rest of my life. We're not just talking about any anime, we're gonna talk about Weathering With You, which is one of the movies by director Makoto Shinkai. He's directed Your Name, amongst with other movies I definitely really have to get to at some point. They're all on the list, I promise. I just need to like actually get to them. He's directed a lot of really good movies, but Weathering With You is one that's like really resounded with me so far, even more than Your Name. In terms of that, I'd say Your Name is one of those like movies that he's written and directed that like has really good plot and storyline, and I feel like Weathering With You is just one of those stories that happens to touch your heart. So because of that and because of how much I felt this movie, let's talk about Weathering With You. Just a general synopsis in case like you haven't watched it, though I'm assuming if you clicked on this video you have watched it. Weathering With You is a movie about this boy named Haruko who is just he just could not take living in his hometown anymore, so he decides to go to Tokyo and try to make a new life for himself there at 16 years old. There he meets a ton of trials and tribulations, but ends up coming amongst a couple of friends, including Mr. Suga and Hina. And yeah, from there on he discovers that Hina is the sunshine girl, and they work around in order to like make the weather in Tokyo great again, because it has been raining and storming all summer long and no one has seen the sun in months. That's basically what the story is about. Obviously like things take a darker turn later on. But overall, it's just like this really like ambiance, like aesthetic movie that kind of like puts you into that, obviously like that summer setting, and tells a fantastic story in it. So without further ado, let's get into the analysis. So for one thing I really loved about this movie was the way it played with characters and character names. The thing that made this movie like really work for me was the characters and the fact that they were so like painfully human. Like they were so human, they were made with so many flaws, but there were also so many joyous parts of them that made them like fundamental part of why this story worked for me. Let's go into characters and their character names. So for one, Haruko. I feel like people either love or hate his character. He definitely is one of the noisier, more angsty characters of the story, but I did love him despite all of that. So his name means empty void sky, which I think is really interesting. It also means something on a big scale, meaning that it can grow taller, it can become bigger, everything like that. The fact that he's an empty void sky I think is really symbolic of his emotional state throughout most of the movie. From the opening scene, like we see he has like scratches and just like visibly like beat up and burdened. Essentially he just does not feel like he has a purpose. He doesn't feel like the people at his hometown understand him. He feels empty. He feels like a complete lack of connection, and I feel like that's why he like sets out in order to like go to Tokyo to find something to fill in that void that he feels within his heart. And he does end up finding that Mr. Suga and Hina and all of the other fantastic characters in the movie, but I think that really symbolizes his emotional state. He's just not having a good time at all in the beginning of the movie, and he continues to like deal with that stress, but eventually he finds something to fill that void. So for that, I think that name is perfect, and I love the fact that Makoto Shinkai used that as his name. Like it's fantastic. And I like it because I think like one of the characters, it was Natsumi, like once he says his name's Haruko, she says that it's a beautiful name. And I don't know exactly what that alludes to, but I think it's just really nice that despite the fact that his name means empty and void, it also means the ability to grow taller. So it means that there's so much that you can work with within yourself almost, and not necessarily something negative. So from there, like it's just nice, and it's probably like really like heartening for us, or like people that feel that they sort of have a void within themselves and that they need to like continue to push and just grow from the little that they have. I really like that name, and I think it works perfectly for his character. The next character, who is not the protagonist but is the protagonist's love interest and also a protagonist in a kind of way, that is the name for like double protagonist, right? It is Hina. We love her. Her name literally means the sun, and I already knew that because like I love Haikyuu, and like the name Hinata, I knew it meant the sun. And I just found it really accurate because despite the fact that she's not necessarily the most bubbly character, like the most like perky character, which is usually common for like female anime characters, I don't know why, but like it usually is common. She has the ability to bring sunlight into the world, which is part of the reason why she becomes a sunshine girl, which is her main role within the movie. And from there, like, yeah, she just brings sunshine. She basically becomes the sunshine in Haruko's life. She helps like fill that like void, that empty, vast sky within his heart, that blank canvas. But she also brings sunshine into other people's lives by the fact that she's burdened with responsibilities. She has to take care of her little brother. She lost her mother recently, but even at that moment, she prayed for sunshine. She prayed for something that would benefit like not only herself but everybody else. else, and she takes on that responsibility of the world to bring sunshine to the world. It's a great burden, but it's one that she manages to bring like time and time again, and I think that just is really accurate for her character. She is the sun. She's burdened with bringing light to the world, and she happens to bring light to anyone that she manages to meet. Just literally bring sunshine. Love that name. Incredibly accurate. Also incredibly just like blunt and obvious, but I love it. I love it, okay? The next name I want to go over is Mr. Suga. So honestly, it took me a while to find out the meaning of his name. Like I was a bit confused about it, but Suga means to suck and to attract. Mr. Suga, I think it's like named after a plant, and basically that plant is a sedge which grows on wet ground, which I think was really, really nice because it literally rained so much in Tokyo, and despite that he was trying to make a living through this like superstitious magazine that they're running.
仕事探してんだろ劇団や体験談を聞き神隠しとか予言とか人身売買とか
His whole life is basically wet sedge, I feel like it's literally just like background. His like wife, he ends up losing like really, really early within their marriage, and he can't have access to his daughter for one reason or another. He's only limited to like certain visits with her, but he can't really visit her because of her asthma and because the rain causes her asthma to act up. So his whole life kind of just feels like wet ground, but despite that he's still growing, he's still trying to like continue on. And in the same sense, he is similar to Haruko, which they do mention a lot in the movie. They're both kind of like in this weird spot in their lives, but they still have room to grow. They're both trying to grow from a hard place. So from there, they are both very similar, and I think both of their names suit them a lot. And I think it does represent Mr. Suga. Like he's kind of rough around the edges. He drinks, he smokes, and he's running like a superstitious magazine, right? He's not like the richest man in the world, but he's trying his best, and that's all we can expect from anybody. Next up is Natsumi, who is one of the most entertaining characters in this movie. She was so fun. Her name has Natsu in it, which means summer. So again, she's kind of similar to Hina's character in the sense that she is a character that brings comfort and sunshine and just like this extra spark of life to the world despite the rain and everything like that. Yeah, like she can be like really relatable and grounded when times are hardest, and she helped bring Mr. Suga through that hard time when he lost his wife. She like makes sure to pay attention to Hodoka and his needs and everything like that, and she ends up coming in clutch in the end of the movie. We love a sister for that. Like she came in clutch. She's just very kind and open-minded, and I think like Natsu, like summer, a time when there's usually clear blue skies, I think that's really accurate for a character. The names in general are just perfect for this. And then finally, the character I want to touch on is Nagisa, which is Hina's younger brother. His name basically means like beach and shore, which is like the water's edge. Reference to the beach, also like the water's edge. I feel like he's like in that in-between world where he's kind of like a really mature, younger character. He's not basically just like sunshine or like happy or naive and oblivious. Like obviously he's going through the same hard things that Hina is after losing their mom and just like trying to stay afloat and together throughout everything and not having like social services pull them apart. Like he's aware of what's going on, but he's trying to like basically live life, trying to be happy on the edge. So I feel like that's equally as accurate to him. Overall though, all the names relate to some sort of like water or sunshine element, and it ties into the themes of the movie and like the main plot of the movie really, really well. So really enjoyed them, and it just helped continually immerse us into the film. Okay, let's talk about the main theme of the movie, which is the weather, climate change, everything like that. I love the weather symbolism because I don't know if there's like a correct term for it. If there is, I'll insert it like down below obviously, but like I'm one of those people that's like grossly affected by the weather. Like when it's really rainy or like cloudy or anything, I feel like incredibly more tired. If it's sunny like it is today, I have the energy to film videos, I have the energy to like do any like really productive stuff. I just have like boundless energy, I feel like, when sunshine is out, and it makes me want to go outside, and it makes me like happy, and it makes it possible for me to interact with my friends and see my family and things like that. That's basically obviously the same in Weathering with You. In Weathering with You, like it was raining for most of the movie, like it rains for most of the movie, and that is the dilemma that the characters have to reckon with, that along with like the rest of the problems in their lives. Each character, like they approach Hina after they start their sunshine business in order to do something in their lives that's very important to them. One girl wants to do like this cosplay like actor event, and she wants to like make it big. One person just wants to have their wedding in like a really like nice sunshiny place, which God, who can blame her? Another scene, which was obviously like one of the best scenes in the movie, was the fireworks. Everyone wanted to see like the national fireworks for the holiday, and it wasn't guaranteed, but the sunshine made it possible for everyone to gather together and celebrate the country and just celebrate with their family. So the weather is like really important, not only for like boosting our mood, but boosting our ability in order to like interact with people and just like touch people in our own unique ways. The sun makes that possible, and like clear skies make that possible. Like the absence of that put a downtrodden on people's moods and on everything like that, which you kind of see in Haruka, like when he first goes to Tokyo and it's raining all the time. He finds it like really impossible to like do anything. He can't find a job. He hasn't found a stable place to live. Overall, he's still like hurt from whatever it is that happens like in his hometown. Like he just cannot like move on. But eventually things become better when he meets Hina. And not only does she give him a burger, offer him like his first like really satisfying meal because it came from another person that's like being kind to him, but she also brings him sunshine. And the fact that that scene is what shifted like his emotions and basically like shifted his character into action, I find that just really interesting and really profound, which is amazing. But overall, like not only do we see how like important weather is and how it affects human emotion, we see the way like human emotion can affect the weather. And this goes into spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and watch or skip over this part. But we see the way like humans can affect the weather, though most obviously through Hina. Obviously in the world, like we affect the weather by like releasing like carbon gas, releasing all sorts of bad things into the environment that cause extreme weathers that we've seen. Like for example, it's been snowing like a shit ton the last few weeks, okay? Like it's been insane, and that has been affecting my mood. I hate it. I get winter depression. Another thing, there have been extreme like heats during the summer. Like I remember last summer especially was incredibly like excruciatingly hot, lots of forest fires. Like we affect the weather a lot through our own actions. But in Hina's case, like in Weathering with You, like we see that sort of metaphorically, but also still literally through the way that she is able to bring sunshine. Hello. Basically, like whenever she prays, like she can will the weather in order to like bend to her will, which is her essential superpower. But not only that, we can see how like giving into her more negative emotions. In her case, it was sadness, but in our case, like in the real world, it could be greed, it could be like indulgence, that kind of thing. Like it can affect the weather and cause it to like turn into not so good things. Like by the end of the movie, like when she's really sad and they're running away from the police and they're just trying to like stay together, she causes the weather to turn snow. So like not only does the weather have a profound effect on us, we have a profound effect on nature. It's a give and take, and it's a really cyclical relationship. And basically, like I feel like Makoto, like Shinkai, essentially he was telling us that like not only like does the weather profoundly affect us, but like we control the weather, and so we should just give to the world as much as we can. It's a similar message to Ghibli movies, which is why I like it so much. But yeah, Weathering with You really does show how like the weather affects us and how we affect the weather and how important that is in our daily lives. So that theme was really prevalent. Another theme that was really important that I found probably like the most powerful is climate change and the fact that it mostly affects the children. This is so important. And I love this part so much. There is this scene where there are multiple scenes really where like the adults are talking about how the kids aren't experiencing summer, like they're like so sad that they can't experience like this thing that they really enjoyed and loved as well. As you can see in like modern day, people did not deal with the issue of climate change in the past, and so like the repercussions of it are becoming more and more prevalent in the future. And so the youth, people like me, people younger than me at this point because I'm almost 20, the youth are essentially the people that have to deal with those problems and have to like take on that burden. In this movie, we see a lot of burden in the youth. For one, with Haruko, like he is trying to, because of probably a presumed lack of being able to depend on his parents, like he has to depend on himself in order to like survive, basic survival, think about his future, things like that. Essentially, he can't even do that because he's trying to make it through day to day, but like we see that burden on himself because of a lack of dependency and like, I guess, initiative on his parents' on past generation. We also see that with Suga, like Haruka, when he was in deep trouble and the police were looking for him, Mr. Suga ends up giving up on him, leaves him in the street. He's like, hey, you can't have this job anymore, we're gonna like leave you behind. Another moment when he can't depend on adults, like as soon as things get rougher, like he's just like, I'm gonna move this burden onto you as opposed to taking it upon myself and helping you out. And eventually Mr. Suga changes his mind, but it's another instance in which like Haruka can't depend on adults in order to like solve his problems. Like he has to consistently have to figure it out himself, like think of the future with his own power. It's honestly not that much power he has. Like he moves about everything very clumsily, which I think is really accurate, and I'm glad that they do that because teens, like, hey, we're confused, we're loud, everything is just a mess. It's a mess. And like we kind of see that proceeding forward. Like with climate change acts now, like obviously they're better, but most of that is due to like youth initiative in order to advocate for like these climate change issues and like pushing universities to maybe like add solar panels to their buildings or pushing countries to join coalitions in order to fix the problem. Like all of that is very important. It's just like we see that burden being pushed onto the youth. Well, like not only in the sense of responsibility, but also like literally in the sense of weather in the movie. And Haruka, we see like that burden of having to deal with his problems himself, but in Hina, we see her burden of literally having to fix the weather herself. Like everyone's complaining about the rain and everyone's complaining about how they can't do the events that they want, but that's largely due, like we don't really see it on screen, but that's largely due to human actions before that moment. Like literally, she has to bring sunshine about. And like I think we see that like most accurately, the fact that we're gonna have to sacrifice kids in order to like make the climate a better place. Like they're gonna have to sacrifice time and heart and soul into like making like good laws and good legislation pass. We see that with Hina in the sense where people are like so willing to sacrifice the sunshine girl if they're able to like see the sun again. And that was a really dark scene. She even asked Hodoka, she's like, hey, do you want to see the sunshine again? And he was like, yes, obviously, but you don't think about like necessarily the actions that need to be taken in order to see the sunshine again, or in order to get better weather. The thing that we don't see is the sacrifice of like the youth or like people like that are running these institutions and all of these other things, what they're sacrificing in order to do it. Like that's what Hina was doing in the movie, and it's just one of those things that aren't seen. Like we accept the fact that the weather is better, but you don't see like the causes of that essentially. Like it's a very tunnel vision kind of focus on climate change. Like you want the weather to change, but you're not willing to like do any of it yourself. You're going to depend on other people, but not register the fact on the action of other people affect your life. That kind of thing is really prevalent in Weathering with You, and I think they did do that really, really well. Especially with the fact that like she wants the weather to be good for like her like brother and for Hodoka and for like everyone else that she encounters, but she doesn't necessarily want to sacrifice herself. Like she really does not want to disappear, like give in to the pressure that is like making the weather better, making the world, like her country, a better place. Like she's buckling under that burden, and not only is she dealing with that burden, she's dealing with the burden of having to like take care of her and her brother and just like her own shit. You know, she has her own shit, and now she has to take on the world's shit, and that's a lot. That's a lot for a kid, which is honestly why I'm so happy with the way the movie ended. Now, look, I get some people are unhappy with the way the movie ended because they're like, oh, so we're just gonna like allow them out of their selfish desire to like live. Like we should be happy for them despite the fact that now like half of Japan has gone underwater. Look, it's controversial. I get it. But I honestly liked the ending because I think sometimes, like especially as kids and especially as the youth, like there's only so much you can give in order to improve the situation. It's not just like pushing it onto the youth and expecting them to take care of it. It's a collective effort. And I think like expecting just like one person's sacrifice to fix everything, like that's not gonna fix everything. Like I like the fact that like they make the case that like, yeah, it's not, are we just okay with sacrificing this little girl in order for like everything to like return back to normal? No, this has to be a group thing. That's why like, they don't blame Hodoka at the end. Like Mr. Suga's like, don't let it bother you. Like this is just like, we're just gonna have to accept that this is the way that things are and just move forward from here. Because ultimately it's not their fault. Hina just so happened to get the power of like bringing the sun there, but she didn't ask to be sacrificed. She didn't ask to like be born into a world where like it rains most of the summer. She didn't ask for that. That's something that was like made up due to the people that came before her, right? So that collective effort, like though it wasn't shown in the movie, the fact that like Hina was not sacrificed and Hodoka and Hina managed to have like a happy ending, or I guess more accurately a happy beginning, because they finally like meet back with each other at the end. I think that is really fantastic. And it goes to show, it's hard, bro. It's hard. You have to deal with your own shit, you have to deal with everything else. Like it's very, very difficult. But not only does it push for more acknowledgement of climate change and everything like that, but it pushes for saying that like while we need to do these certain things, we are still a human. We are still gonna make mistakes and do things that might necessarily not be best for the world or best for yourself. Like you need to take that time for yourselves. And I feel like throughout the entire movie, Hina, Hodoka, they sacrificed so much just to live in order to like give to other people, especially Hina. Like Hina was giving so much to people. See the end, like choosing her life, even if it meant like over the world, like I don't think anyone can be mad at that, watching that. And it shows, yeah, like human desire, like the fact that there is like this intense love story and them just trying to like hold on to each other, Hodoka and Hina trying to hold on to each other throughout the storm. I think it just advocates, despite we're going through the storm, like we do need to sacrifice, but not at the expense of ourselves, you know? Like we're all still human. And I think one of the things that like are necessary when it comes to freedom, when it comes to living an actual life, is taking care of yourself and just making sure that you don't disappear. Because of that, I really liked this movie. Like it advocates for something better, just something better. Moments in which you can smile through the storm, whether it's because of sunshine or whether it's because of a person in your life that also shines some sort of life. Like we need moments in which we can shine through the storm despite knowing that the storm is still present. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think there's any way I can possibly consider that like a bad thing. So I think I will end it there. There's probably so many other things I could say about this movie. There's so many things that I liked. For example, like the Hodoka and Suga parallels, Natsumi's whole struggle with like everything else. Like even like Nagisa, like I feel like he had an interesting story. Oh, I forgot to mention with names, Ame. We can't forget Ame. The cat's name is literally Raid. I feel like that's so wholesome. There's just so much about this movie that I enjoyed, but I think ultimately it's just the fact that like human emotion, man. Human emotion. It's wonderful, it's complex, it's not always perfect, it doesn't always make sense, but here we are, bro. That horn, here we are. So anyways, I think I will end this video here, but thank you guys so much as per usual for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Do all of the usual. Follow me on my Insta, my socials, just all of it. Yeah, there will be more anime videos coming in the future. Don't expect them all too fast now, but there will be more. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.